Hello everyone. Today, we are going to take a look at 6 real cases that were investigated thanks to surveillance footage. Hidden in these videos are important clues and details that ultimately helped solve each of the 6 cases. You'll see how silent electronic witnesses captured the final moments, shedding light on mysterious incidents and uncovering the truth. In this video, we'll discuss the story occurring in England in 2011. 17-year-old Emily Longley was full of hope and had a bright future awaiting her, but unfortunately, all her plans collapsed. This case caused a great resonance, not only because of the death of a young woman, but also because of how events unfolded after her death. Emily Longley was born in England in 1994 to Mark and Caroline Longley. 2 years later, her parents had another child, Emily's younger sister Hannah. From early childhood, the girls were very close to each other. They lived in a loving and caring family. When Emily was 9 and Hannah was 7, the family moved to New Zealand. Auckland became their new home. When Emily fell in with the wrong crowd after emigrating to New Zealand, her middle-class parents sent her back to the UK to start a new life with her grandparents. In 2010, Emily flew to England to study at Brockenhurst College. She wanted to get a business degree and dreamed of becoming a model. In England, she lived at her grandparents' house in Bournemouth. Bournemouth, adjacent to Poole in the west, is a town in the county of Dorset, a popular resort on the English Channel coast. When Emily moved to England, her sister Hannah was still at school, and her parents, Mark and Caroline, divorced but maintained a friendly relationship. Emily was a beautiful young woman who attracted much attention. One day, she met 20-year-old Elliot Turner. He made quite an impression on her. Gradually, their communication grew into a romantic relationship. In April 2011, Emily returned to New Zealand to visit her family, whom she had not seen for about 6 months. Her father met her at the airport. She ran up to him and hugged him tightly, saying she missed him very much. Emily had a very close relationship with her father, who loved her madly and missed her smile, laughter, and dirty jokes. The following day, the whole family went to Emily's favorite pizzeria. She told her parents that, apart from studying in college, she was engaged in modeling and made some incredible friends. She also mentioned the man she was dating, 20-year-old Elliot Turner. They had only been dating for a few months, and it seemed to her that she was too young for something serious. "I think I'm going to end it when I go back," she said. Emily spent the next few weeks hanging out with friends and family. She had a wonderful time. No one suspected they would soon lose her. When Emily's flight started boarding, it was hard for her to say goodbye to her family. However, Emily promised she would be back in 5 months. She wanted to see the matches of the Rugby World Cup, which was to begin on September 9th. While texting with her father a few days later, Emily informed him about breaking up with Elliot, but she did not go into details. Elliot behaved strangely after seeing the photos of Emily that she posted on social networks while in New Zealand. There were guys in these photos, and Elliot was very jealous. The son of a wealthy jeweler, Elliot Turner, was 20 years old, and his life seemed carefree. Turner was well known in the local bar and club scene in the Bournemouth and Poole areas and was part of a gang of wealthy young men called The Firm. Called by his friends All Talk Turner because of his boasting, he met Emily in December 2010. The couple enjoyed the high life at the resort and often had fun until late at night, but Turner, who had a history of obsession with women, soon showed signs of jealousy. As a result, their relationship quickly escalated into violent arguments. Some people described him as a person displaying a threatening, aggressive, violent, controlling, and possessive nature. In January 2008, when he was 16, he received a harassment warning letter from the police telling him not to contact his ex-girlfriend after he bombarded her with text messages and emails because she broke up with him. Turner loved being at the center of attention. He didn't need to work for a living. His parents gave him everything he needed. Elliot skillfully manipulated people, including his parents. His life was all about parties, women, alcohol, and illegal substances. He considered himself a man who can do anything he wants. Elliot carried a hammer with him in case anyone tried to contradict him. His friends believed that Turner fancied himself a gangster and wanted to become the one everyone turned to for help. He could come to the bar and buy everyone a drink. Elliot bragged about driving a new Mini Cooper, but it was a gift from his grandmother. He tried to maintain his bad boy image with a series of supposedly streetwise messages on social networking sites where he often referred to himself as Scarface or God. He didn't lack female attention, but when he met Emily, he became very attached to her. She complimented his image of a successful person, which he worked hard to create. As their relationship developed, Turner started showing his controlling behavior more and more often. He even threatened Emily that he would take her life. In an emotional plea to Turner, Emily wrote a note to him a few months before her death saying, 1. I love you. 2. Don't say you'll kill me. 3. Stop talking about your ex-girlfriends. 4. Stop being so constantly aggressive. Be more cool, because that is so much more hot and you make me scared because you're so intimidating. When Turner began to show his true face, and when his controlling behavior started to go beyond all reasonable limits, Emily realized that he was not the person she wanted to be with. However, people like Turner don't understand rejection. On the evening of May 6, 2011, Emily was with friends in one of the entertainment venues. Surveillance cameras captured how she came to a nightclub with her friends. That evening, Turner read her Facebook messages and discovered that Emily was dating another man. It pissed him off. He came to the club and started arguing with Emily. This whole story ended with the girl throwing her drink in his face. Turner verbally abused her and threatened her with violence. He didn't like Emily's outfit. He thought it was too revealing. He dismissed the fact that Emily had broken up with him. The man wasn't going to let her go. Elliot ruined her evening, so she decided to leave. Yet, her ex-boyfriend followed her. His friends heard him say, "I will kill her. I will go to prison for it and still be a millionaire. I would do 10 years. It wouldn't bother me." Turner caught up with Emily, somehow persuading her to go to his house. He said he wanted to talk in a more relaxed atmosphere. Elliot Turner lived with his parents. Perhaps that's why Emily went with him. Maybe she thought he would behave more calmly in the presence of his parents. Neighbors saw them go inside the house. The following morning, Anita Turner, Elliot's mother, called the emergency service, saying Emily was not waking up.
Just tell me what's happened there, the reason for the call.
What it is, my son's friend is staying with us. This morning, I tried to wake both of them up, but the girl didn't wake up. We tried to wake her up. I don't know what it is.
I need you to pull back the duvet for me and just look to see if you can see any signs of breathing.
I tried to hold the pulse.
No, I need you to put your face next to her mouth. Can you feel any breath? Can you see her chest going up and down?
No.
Nothing. What colour is she?
What colour is she?
Yeah, what colour is she? She's blue. Is she red?
Is she red? My husband is having a look now. Hang on.
It was about 9 a.m. Before the arrival of the ambulance, Anita listened to the operator's instructions on how to help Emily. Unfortunately, when the ambulance arrived, the only thing they could do was to state the death of Emily Longley. Anita was an Indonesian citizen who came to the UK to marry Lee Turner. When the couple had a son, they did not deny him anything, which was a big mistake. During her conversation with the emergency service operator, Anita's voice did not sound like the voice of a mother who had just found her son's girlfriend dead. She was too calm, as if nothing unusual had happened. Thousands of miles from England, in New Zealand, Emily's father, Mark, woke up at 2 a.m. and saw a bunch of missed calls from his ex-wife Caroline and younger daughter Hannah. There was also a voice message from Hannah, but Mark could barely make out what she was saying. Then he heard Caroline scream in the background and her words, "Emily is dead." Mark refused to believe it. He called his mother in England. When she answered, his whole world fell apart. His mother was crying hysterically. Moments later, one of the police officers took her phone. "I'm sorry to tell you that your daughter Emily is dead," he said. Mark couldn't believe it. After all, Emily was sitting on his couch and smiling just a week ago. Flying to the UK, the grief-stricken father still refused to believe that his daughter was dead. But unfortunately, it wasn't a dream. The loss of the eldest daughter was a heartbreaking challenge for Emily's parents. The police told them that Emily had died in her sleep. It didn't make any sense. She was young and healthy. The police collected some evidence, but it was unclear what happened to Emily. They had to wait for the autopsy results. Elliot Turner's parents, Anita and Lee, told investigators they had been home all night and had not heard anything suspicious. Elliot publicly mourned Emily by posting photos of them together on his Facebook page. The police had nothing bulletproof to refute the story of Turner and his parents that Emily mysteriously died in her sleep. During the investigation of any death, the main factor is to determine the cause of it. When investigators discover the cause of the victim's death, they understand what they are dealing with and how to conduct an investigation. While waiting for the autopsy results, the investigators found out that a few days before her death, Emily had posted something strange on her Facebook page. "I have a stalker," she added. "Someone just called me and I was like, 'Who's this?' And they were like, 'You don't know me, but I know everything about you.' And I was like, 'How did you get my number?' And he was like, 'I'll tell you when I see you,' and kept asking me out. So I hung up and they won't stop calling," Emily wrote on Thursday, May 5th. At the same time, the police managed to find out that before her death, Emily quarreled with Elliot Turner in front of other nightclub guests. After interviewing Turner's friends, investigators learned that he tried to control Emily's every move, that he found out about her meeting with another man, and most importantly, that Elliot threatened to take her life many times. But his friends did not attach any importance to this, believing that these were just words with which Turner strengthened his image of a gangster. The autopsy did not give an exact cause of Emily's death. However, experts mentioned it could be strangulation, and one of them said, "The physical findings are entirely consistent with pressure being applied to the neck." Investigators believed that one of the Turner family members could be involved in Emily's death, so they decided to install listening devices in their house. The police were hoping to find out if they were hiding anything, and they were right to do that.
We were right to destroy them. You think we were right to destroy them?
Yeah.
Because we've perverted the course of justice. We've destroyed vital evidence in this case. You think we were right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mum, but focus the conversation because it looks. You look so guilty. You look so guilty by ringing the father.
No, I didn't.
But Mum, please, from a policeman's point of view, it's so obvious. That girl is. Well, I've been meeting that girl has ruined my life.
Yeah.
She has ruined my life.
She did ruin your life.
I would have known she was freezing, Mum. You gotta think. Brain. Just thought she was, I don't know, I thought she was just knackered. Just really tired, as this happened before when I can't get her out of bed. Hence officer, I made a cup of tea. First, because I thought she was okay. Mum, that's fine, it's so believable.
It's burning me inside. Every second of my day it's burning. But I know something that they don't know. It's burning me. Eating me up.
I just grabbed it up and I grabbed it as hard as I could and I grabbed it like that.
They heard Elliot instructing his mother on how to behave with the police and what she needed to say. His father, Lee Turner, seemed to be the only person who understood what he was doing was wrong, but eventually he submitted to the will of his son and wife. While listening to the recordings, investigators also heard what happened to Emily Longley. Elliot Turner admitted that he caused her death. They arrested Elliot Turner a week after Emily's death. He, of course, denied his guilt. His lawyers tried to challenge the authenticity of those audio recordings. However, Having studied all aspects of this case, the judge allowed the prosecution to use the recordings as evidence. Not knowing the police were listening, Elliot admitted that he felt angry every day and that no one had ever pissed him off as much as Emily. During the trial in May 2012, his lawyer stated that their client acted in self-defense. Elliot Turner said that the quarrel in his bedroom turned violent and he had to grab Emily by the neck. He said he didn't strangle her, he just found her dead in his bed the next morning. During the second day of the trial, Turner told the court that he was disgusted by his actions that night. Allegedly, after finding Emily dead, he wrote a letter to his mother saying how ashamed he was and that he was leaving for Spain. One can assume Elliot Turner was going to leave the country on the day of Emily's death, but changed his mind for some reason. When the police arrived at Turner's home after the 999 call, they saw packed bags. Elliot's passport was in his pocket. He admitted in court that he had threatened Emily and felt upset and deceived the night before her death after seeing false emails on her phone saying he had smashed her face into a table. When describing the fight they had before her death, he mentioned Emily started beating him with her hands and feet. He tried to calm her down before giving up and throwing her a 20-pound note for a cab. He said, "She just ignored me at first. Then, 5 seconds later, she just went crazy. I had never seen Emily get to that point of rage. I didn't know what to do. She would not stop. I kept repeating myself, 'Stop it, calm down.' At that point, I grabbed her by the neck using my right hand." Defense counsel Anthony Dunn asked, "Why did you do that?" Turner replied, "To stop her going nuts. I did not know what to do. My right hand made contact with her neck." When the defense counsel asked how hard he grabbed her, Turner replied, "I would not say very hard, but it was quite hard. I grabbed her and pushed her down onto the bed. I pressed down on her neck when she was in the lying down position." He said he held her there for 5 or 6 seconds, then let go and stormed out of the room. When asked if he intended to kill Emily, Turner replied, "No." He said he thought Emily had gone to sleep. Allegedly, he realized Emily was dead only when she did not wake up the following morning. In an interview with the Herald newspaper, Emily's father, Mark, spoke about how hard it was for him to lose his daughter. "Here is the thing about death. It sucks. It doesn't matter if it is your child, your partner, or your 99-year-old grandmother. It sucks. That a person is there one day and not the next, well, it is not something we can deal with easily. All anniversaries are hard. Birthdays are hard. Christmas is hard. Easter is also tough because it was the last time I really spent time with her," Mark Longley said. He said the heaviest part was that he would never see the woman she could have become. "I miss seeing the life she was denied unfold. We had a brief glimpse of the woman she was becoming, and I was so proud of her. I am her father, and of course am biased, but the world really was a better place with her in it. It was certainly a lot more fun." At the trial, they portrayed Elliot Turner as a spoiled, wealthy kid whose parents wanted to help him escape punishment. The court heard he was given the run of the family's home in the affluent Queen's Park area of Bournemouth, where he would hold parties for his middle-class friends. Described as wild by his father, Lee, he was given his own living space in the converted garage of his parents' house so he could come and go without disturbing them. It was in his room, which had its own mini bar, that he strangled Emily on his bed. The police examined the computers seized from Turner's and found the following search queries: death by strangulation and how to avoid punishment for a crime. The main motive of the crime was jealousy. The court heard testimony from Luke Ashford, who spent the night with Emily. As already mentioned, Elliot Turner found out about it. Even while in custody, Turner boasted that the jury would believe his twisted story that Emily had attacked him and he had acted in self-defense when he strangled her in a fit of jealousy. In letters from his prison cell to his friends, he said he would soon drive a new Range Rover and move to Spain. He planned to sell the rights to his story and live a fashionable life. However, the jury quickly shattered his illusions when they found him guilty. On May 22, 2012, the court sentenced Elliot Turner to life in prison with a minimum term of 16 years. Announcing the verdict, Mrs. Justice Dobbs described Turner as a man of striking arrogance. She said, "Emily was a lovely, kind, fun-loving girl who brought a ray of sunshine to those she touched. That light has been extinguished suddenly and needlessly by you. You did not love her, she was just a trophy. The relationship, if it can be called that, was all about you. It was about control. Control you carried out using aggression and threats. You can put away thoughts of champagne, Bentleys, and girls and concentrate on the reason you are serving a life sentence." Mrs. Justice Dobbs also sentenced Turner to 9 months to run concurrently for perverting the course of justice. But Elliot Turner wasn't the only person on trial. His parents, Anita and Lee, whom Turner used for cash to fund his lavish partying, loved their son so much they tried to cover his crime. Lee destroyed Turner's confession letter, and Anita took the jacket from the bedroom where the letter allegedly was. His mother even postponed calling an ambulance so her son could cover his tracks and let the family come up with a convincing story for the police. When asked why she did not call an ambulance, Anita Turner replied that she did not believe Emily was dead. Under cross-examination, they asked her if she thought Emily had ruined her son's life. After a pause of 6 seconds, she replied, "No." In the recording, Lee asked Anita whether they had done the right thing. "We've done the right thing," Anita replied. Both 51-year-old Anita Turner and 54-year-old Lee Turner were found guilty of perverting the course of justice and sentenced to 27 months in prison. Mrs. Justice Linda Dobbs said, "The two of you chose to fight the case showing little remorse. Mr. Turner, you claimed you didn't know the contents of the letter when you destroyed it, but the fact it was burning on your conscience is quite evident from your anguished tone of voice on the tape." Released in 2013 after serving half of their sentence, they still live in the house where Emily Longley died. Emily's dad, Mark, broke down as he spoke about the verdicts after the case. Supported by former wife Caroline and daughter Hannah, he said, "What we have heard over these 5 weeks has shocked us and disgusted us. That a man so evil like Turner could treat a gentle and loving girl like Emily so violently is beyond belief. We are so proud of the fact that she had come halfway around the world to cause a better life for herself. This is a life Turner decided to end." Mark said there was a lot of talk about Turner's boasting and that no one had taken his threats seriously until it was too late. He added, "Even his mother did not take him seriously when he texted her to tell her he was going to break Emily's neck. Perhaps if someone had taken his threats seriously, Emily might be with us today. I hope Turner suffers every day in prison for what he has done." In October 2020, the press reported that Elliot Turner's cellmates had beaten him in prison. It happened after he hung up photos of Emily in his cell and boasted of receiving letters from female fans. Some of his cellmates attacked him after he said he would soon return to his life full of champagne, Bentleys, and birds. In 5 years, Turner will have the right to apply for early release from prison. One can only hope that common sense will prevail and that the parole board will make the right decision regarding a person who still has no remorse for his actions. The events we'll delve into in this video occurred in 2020 in the Blackburn, UK. The death of 19-year-old Aya Hashim was an arduous challenge for her family. The girl left the house to buy groceries at the nearest store and never returned home. The Hashim family immigrated to the UK from Lebanon in November 2011. Like any other parent, Aya's father Ismail wanted his children to grow up safely, receive a good education, and become worthy members of society. He has applied for asylum for himself and his family. When the Hashim family received a residence permit, they settled in Blackburn. Aya was an ambitious girl with big life plans. At the time of her death, she was a sophomore law student at Salford University. What happened to Aya was like a cruel fate joke for her parents. After all, they immigrated to England searching better and safer future. But in the end, they lost their daughter in broad daylight. On May 17, 2020, at about 3 p.m., Aya left the house and went to the supermarket close to her family's house. She did not return home, and about an hour later, a police helicopter began circling over the area. Since Aya didn't pick up her phone, her father went to find her, but the police cordoned off the street along which the girl was walking. Aya's mother searched the internet and found the news that someone shot a woman in the area where they lived. Soon after, Aya's parents heard the most terrible news any parents could learn. Their child died in the shooting. Aya was walking to the supermarket on King Street when a car drove by with several people in it. One of the people in the car fired 2 shots, one of which hit the girl. She was taken to the hospital in severe condition, but despite doctors' efforts, Aya died. On the same day, the police stated that the authorities did not think this incident was related to racial or religious hatred. Deputy Chief Terry Woods also asked everyone with car video recorders and surveillance cameras to report to the police if the recordings show a Toyota Avensis car or anything even remotely suspicious.
My name's Terry Woods, Deputy Chief Constable of Lancashire Police. I'm on King Street at the moment, and yesterday on King Street at about 3 o'clock, tragically, a young 19-year-old, wonderfully promising lady, Aya Hashim, was shot dead. We believe that Aya was completely innocent bystander who'd just simply gone to grab some food shopping for a family and was caught when a vehicle, a Toyota Avensis, which was grey in colour, registration Sierra Victor 53, uniform Bravo Papa, drove past and shot 2 rounds, we believe 2 rounds. One of those rounds hit Aya. But as I said, we believe she is completely innocent bystander. Our thoughts and condolences go out to Aya's family and friends and the community. And our commitment is that we will throw as much of our might and resources behind this investigation to bring justice for both Aya and her family. And I'd just like to make 3 appeals. The first one is the Toyota Avensis. If anybody's got any footage, dashcam, mobile phone, CCTV, or you even saw the vehicle yesterday, please come forward. If in the last month you've been driving around Blackburn and you've got a dashcam, please check that footage for the last month. If you've got that Toyota Avensis, please come forward via our website and get us the footage. If you were here yesterday, please don't assume that we've got the information that you have. Please come forward and contact us.
Later the same day, the police found the Toyota Avensis car involved in the shooting abandoned near the crime scene. Also, the police now had CCTV footage of the girl's death. Let's take a look at it. So the time is 3:03 p.m. Aya is walking down King Street. The camera that captured the moment of the girl's death is on the building of a car wash and service. Aya is walking along the sidewalk, and when she approaches this pole, the Toyota mentioned earlier drives past her. The rear side window on the left is down. The shooter makes a fatal shot. The bullet goes through and hits the pole. For ethical reasons, the police did not reveal footage of the girl falling to the ground. After seeing this recording, we can conclude there were at least 2 people in the car, the driver and the shooter. The criminals immediately left the shooting scene and abandoned the vehicle on one of the streets. Less than 2 hours later, the police found the car and started the search for its owner. At the same time, the forensic team began examining the vehicle in search of possible evidence. Before revealing the cause of the death of the 19-year-old girl, we should get acquainted with other people involved in this story. First of all, it's 40-year-old Feroz Suleiman. The man had a successful business and a loving family that lived in prosperity. He had his tire shop, which has become very popular over time. The shop brought Suleiman income that allowed for quite a comfortable life for him and his family. The man did not hesitate to put his life on public display and regularly shared with subscribers pictures in which he drives new pricey cars.
How you doing, guys? My name is Faz from RI Tires. This is our first vlog, and I can see obviously Sully's in the background. Get Sully in, because he gets shy. There we are. So basically, we're going to start vlogging our everyday life about the cars that come into our garage. We're going to be vlogging the BMW M5 2018. We got it last week, but I've just not had a chance to get this vlogging done. Like I said, it's not a normal vlog. We get the like everyday life for RI Tires. We get the customers. We're going to vlog them. Performance diffuser. I know all this because I spec the. That's why I know it. Have a look inside. Inside's very nice.
But, as people say, it is not poverty or wealth that spoils people, but envy and greed. Perhaps some people envied Feroz Suleiman, but the cause of his problems was not someone's envy. His tire shop knew no troubles until one day a new car wash opened in the neighborhood. Its owner was Pachat Khan. Everything was fine until Khan decided to expand the range of services provided. Now his business started selling car tires, causing a conflict between Khan and Suleiman. As a result, Suleiman's business became less profitable, which undoubtedly was a problem. Business neighbors started a public feud. The police were frequent guests of fights between employees of these organizations. As you have already understood, Aya was in the path of a bullet when she passed by Khan's car wash. Shortly after the girl's death, the police arrested people suspected of involvement in her death. The police carried out a large-scale operation with the participation of police officers from other countries because some of the suspects managed to leave the UK. Initially, the police charged 8 people in the Aya Hashim case. These people were 32-year-old Abu Bakr Satya, 31-year-old Anthony Ennis, 35-year-old Ayaz Hussein, 26-year-old Kashif Manzoor, 29-year-old Uthman Satya, 33-year-old Zamir Raja, 28-year-old Judy Chapman, and 40-year-old Feroz Suleiman. Now let's return to the reason why Aya died. We can conclude that her death was accidental. She just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. After all, Feroz Suleiman hired a hitman to deal with his competitor Khan. Hence, the bullet that hit Aya was supposed to hit Khan, the owner of a car wash and a tire shop. Let's look closely at the recording at the moment of shooting. As you can see, Aya is a few feet from the pole. The first bullet fired didn't hit anyone. The water splashes show that it hit something next to this man. The crucial moment here is that the shooter made a mistake. The person he aimed at wasn't a business owner. During the second shot, Aya was between the shooter and this employee mistaken for Khan. The bullet hit her in the left side of the chest, passed through her, and hit the pole. The car fled the scene right away. The car wash owner, Khan, saw the girl falling to the ground. He ran up to her, trying to help and calling the emergency service.
It happened, basically, I saw the car, saw the gun. They went fast first, and then they came back, they shoot. They're holding the gun on me, like, when they came around, I said, what? And they start shooting on me. She was just walking around. She was walking, she was going to go somewhere, I think.
So you think that they were shooting at you initially, and then caught her instead? They're responsive? Is she breathing?
No, she's not responsive. She's got a very weak pulse. We're just starting CPR.
Okay.
Go on, keep going, guys. Doing well. Keep going, guys.
Keep going.
We should be here any second. I can hear
you. You should be able to see them in seconds, all right.
Now let's take a closer look at which roles the participants of this crime played. Let's start with the client. When Feroz Suleiman started losing profits, he came up with only one solution, simply eliminating a competitor. And even though he would have been among the suspects as a person who benefited from the death of his rival Khan, he went for it. Ayaz Hussein found the perpetrators of the crime, Zamir Raja, who was the shooter, and Anthony Ennis, who was driving the Toyota that day. Another interesting fact is that the criminals drove near the car wash to inspect the area the day before the incident. Shortly before the incident, Abu Bakr Satya bought the Toyota with money provided by Suleiman. Kashif Manzoor ensured the car would work at the appointed hour by doing technical inspections and eliminating malfunctions. Uthman Satya and his girlfriend, Judy Chapman, drove the shooter and the driver in their Ford Fiesta to where the Toyota was parked, and then took them away after they committed a crime and abandoned the car on one of the streets. The chronology of events that occurred that day was as follows. At 1:14 p.m., Judy Chapman and her boyfriend Uthman Satya picked up Raja and Ennis from Bolton and took them to Blackburn, where the Toyota was parked. The distance from one town to another was about 13 miles. While all four drove to Blackburn, Kashif Manzoor ensured the Toyota was in order. The car was a couple of miles from the car wash. As for Suleiman, he took a front row seat, walking in front of his service station to see everything that would happen personally. However, the Toyota wouldn't start because of the dead battery. So Manzoor had to connect the dead battery to another car's battery using wires. Next, Manzoor handed over the vehicle to Raja and Ennis and returned to the service station. Here you can see how the Toyota appears around the corner with the window down. Ennis and Raja drove past the car wash several times, choosing the right moment. They needed to be on the same side of the street as Khan's car wash. Next, we see how Manzoor and Suleiman are watching the development of events. During the fourth drive past the car wash, Toyota slowed down. Khan, the target, was on the street at that moment. He saw the shooter, Zamir Raja, making a mistake and firing the first shot at another employee. Fortunately, he missed. The second bullet, as we now know, hit Aya. After that, Raja and Ennis left the scene, abandoned their car, and got into the car with Judy Chapman and Uthman Satya, who drove them away from Blackburn. By 5 p.m., the police found the abandoned car of the criminals. Even before they found the Toyota, the police, who had no idea who was behind the shooting, came to Suleiman's tire shop to analyze the surveillance footage. When the policeman was reviewing the video, Ayaz Hussain, who, let me remind you, found the crime perpetrators, came into the shop. Suleiman points to the door, and everyone aware of the incident leaves the room and goes to the second floor. The topic of their discussion is unknown. Further, we see the police continue to watch the video from the surveillance camera, and Abu Bakr Satya, who bought the Toyota, is sitting behind them. At that moment, he heard someone on the police radio saying they had found the criminal's car. Within a second, Satya gets up and goes to Suleiman to discuss something with him. Nine days after Aya's death, Zamir Raja, the shooter, flew to Portugal. At Lisbon Airport, he met Anthony Ennis, the Toyota driver. The latter fled the country too. The client, Feroz Suleiman, was arrested the day after Aya's death, on May 18th. Abu Bakr Satya was arrested a day later, on May 19th. Judy Chapman and Uthman Satya, May 20th. Ayaz Hussein and Kashif Manzoor, May 21st. Zamir Raja, who hoped to return to England unnoticed, was arrested at a train station in London on June 6th. Anthony Ennis was apprehended in Spain on July 4th, after which they extradited him to the UK. All the suspects received charges for taking the life of Aya Hashim and conspiracy to take the life of Khan, the owner of the car wash. All of them, undoubtedly, started denying their guilt, but their silence did not last long. Soon, trying to downplay their role in the crime, the suspects testified against each other. No one wanted to spend the rest of their lives behind bars. Therefore, the police found out even the tiniest details. The announcement of the verdicts was on August 5th, 2021. Feroz Suleiman was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 34 years. It means he will be eligible for parole after 34 years. However, this is not his first prison sentence. In 2001, Suleiman was involved in a hit-and-run that killed a 67-year-old man. He fled the scene, abandoning his car, and later claimed that someone had stolen it. But this did not help him. Suleiman spent 3.5 years behind bars. The shooter, Raja, received the same sentence as Feroz, life imprisonment with a minimum term of 34 years. He agreed to play his part in this crime for £1,500. The driver, Anthony Ennis, was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 33 years. Ayaz Hussein, who found the crime perpetrators, was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 32 years. Abu Bakr Satya, who bought the Toyota Avensis, was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 28 years. Uthman Satya, who organized the transportation of the shooter and the driver, was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 28 years. Kashif Manzoor, responsible for keeping the car in working condition that day, was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 27 years. Announcing the verdict, the judge said, "None of you 7 showed any remorse in the aftermath of the shooting. Together you tried to lie, scheme, and plot your way out of trouble. It was not long before you all started to sacrifice your co-defendants in an attempt to save your own skins." In October 2021, Judy Chapman, who drove the Ford Fiesta, was found guilty of involuntary deprivation of life of Aya Hashim. She received a 15 years prison sentence. However, that's not all. After analyzing the correspondence of all the people convicted in this case, the investigators learned that other people were involved in this crime. On May 5, 2023, 42-year-old Louis Otway from Manchester got sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 32 years. During the trial, the investigation proved that Otway became a link between Ayaz Hussein, Zamir Raja, and Anthony Ennis. In other words, he helped Hussein find the crime's perpetrators. Moreover, there was another woman involved in this case. Callie Bainbridge became the last of 10 convicts. Prosecutors said that on the day of the crime, Callie Bainbridge went to Bolton to meet with Zamir Raja and Anthony Ennis to take their mobile phones from them, which they turned off. She then drove back to Trafford and turned the phones on. Ennis's phone came back to life in Partington, where he lived. Bainbridge then went to Sale, where she turned Raja's phone on. Lancashire police said Bainbridge did this to create the false impression that Raja and Ennis were in Greater Manchester and not in Blackburn at the time of the shooting. Thus, she provided them with a false alibi. Bainbridge, 32, pleaded guilty to conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. On August 11, 2023, she was imprisoned for 23 months and became the last person sentenced in the Aya Hashim case. Salford University, where Aya studied, decided to give her diploma to her parents. The ceremony took place in November 2021. As her family said, Aya dreamed of becoming a lawyer. In this video, we'll discuss the story that happened in England. On Sunday, November 14, 2021, surveillance cameras captured 34-year-old Alexandra Morgan at a gas station near Cranbrook, Kent. No one has seen her since. 4 days later, her parents reported her disappearance to the police. The investigation revealed many secrets that someone hoped no one would ever discover. The truth turned out to be much more frightening than anyone could have imagined. Known to her friends and family as Alex, Alexandra Morgan was a single mother of 2 children, who were 4 and 11 years old at the time. They lived in Wilsley Pound, Cranbrook, Kent. She did not maintain relationships with the fathers of her children. It was certainly not easy for her to raise them alone. According to some sources, Alexandra worked as a dog groomer. People described her as an energetic and ambitious woman who wanted her children to have everything they needed. She wanted a better life for them and took several steps to achieve this. On November 13, 2021, Alexandra arranged a meeting with her parents. She left her 2 children with them, saying she was going on a spa vacation with friends. She told them she would be back in 3 days. On November 17th, Alexandra's parents became concerned after she didn't pick up her children. She didn't answer any calls or texts. It wasn't like her. After several unsuccessful attempts to find out where their daughter had disappeared, the parents had to contact the police. Kent police said there was something strange about Alexandra Morgan's disappearance, so they treated it as a potential crime. At the beginning of the investigation, the police tried to find out which spa Alexandra planned to go to. She told her parents she was going there with friends, and the police wanted to know who those friends were. At that time, the investigators could not even think what they would have to face while searching for Alexandra. The police obtained footage from a gas station in Cranbrook, trying to locate the woman. It was the last place people saw her. Her white Mini Cooper was the key to establishing her whereabouts. On the morning of November 14th, she refueled her car, bought some goods, and left. At first glance, there's nothing unusual in this video. The gas station manager, Rose McCauley, who has been on friendly terms with Alexandra for 17 years, was there when she bought 10 pounds worth of gas and ordered a coffee and a snack on the morning of her disappearance. Rose said, "I don't think anybody knows what's happened to her or where she's gone. For her car not to be seen at all since then is a complete mystery. A friend and I went around Hastings looking for it but didn't find anything. Alex never gets embarrassed, so I don't think it's a case of her being afraid to come home. I just hope nothing bad has happened to her. I just hope she's okay and turns up. It's really worrying." Alex was really dolled up with a full face of makeup, her hair done, and wearing nice clothes when she came in that Sunday looking very well presented. She was more done up than I've ever seen her before, and she came in very early in the morning, which was unlike her. Alex seemed in a good mood and was smiling. Interviewing Alexandra's friends, the detectives learned that in 2018, she posted information on her social networks about a stalker following her every move. In another post from 2019, she shared an image with the words, "Hi stalker." Alexandra wrote, "Stop stalking my page, lovelies. It's quite sad. Not only that, but you making it more obvious by the day, seeing as we are not even friends on Facebook. Nothing to see here, pal, unless I want you too. If you carry on, I'll post your antics for all to see. Have a lovely day." Now investigators were trying to discover if these messages had anything to do with her disappearance. A police spokesman said, "It is completely out of character for Alexandra not to contact her family, and we are now treating this case as a potential murder. While we continue our investigation, I would urge anyone who may have seen Alexandra or her white Mini Cooper with a black roof to contact us. If you think you may have seen Alexandra or something suspicious but are not sure, please do not hesitate to call and let us know." They described Alexandra as a woman around 5 feet 6 inches tall, with a slim build and brown shoulder-length hair. She was wearing a green knee-length quilted coat, a black top, ripped blue jeans, knee-high black boots, and a silver necklace when last seen. Sometimes people disappear without leaving any traces or clues helpful to the police. Many missing person cases remain unsolved, but this time, everything was different. Alexandra Morgan left a digital footprint that eventually allowed the police to find out what happened to her. Moreover, it revealed some shocking secrets. Alexandra wanted to improve her financial situation. Trying to do this, she started working as an escort, advertising her services on the internet. However, her family and friends didn't know about it. Women working as escorts are among the most vulnerable category of people. It's no secret to anyone, including the police. They never know who will be their next client, an ordinary person who, for some reason, decided to pay for such services, or a maniac looking for a victim. The investigators discovered that Alexandra arranged a meeting with her regular client before her disappearance. They arrested this man. At the same time, the statement made by the police representative made it clear that Alexandra was, unfortunately, no longer alive. A spokesperson for Kent Police said, "Detectives from the Kent and Essex Serious Crime Directorate investigating the disappearance of a woman from Sissinghurst have arrested a man. On Thursday, November 25, 2021, a 40-year-old man from St. Leonards-on-Sea was arrested on suspicion of murder. Kent police officers, with support from Sussex Police, are carrying out searches in 3 locations in the Hastings and St. Leonards-on-Sea area as part of their work to locate Alexandra. Residents can expect to see a heightened police presence in the area as inquiries continue." The man they arrested was Mark Brown. He was a construction worker, was married, and had a son. His family did not suspect that he was leading a double life. Before her disappearance, Alexandra had met with him several times. According to Sussex Police, he once bought her a Mini Cooper. Their first meeting was on June 8, 2021, after Brown saw her on an adult website. It was at her home in Sissinghurst, near Cranbrook, Kent. Everything went well that time, and they continued to see each other occasionally. On June 21st, almost 2 weeks later, they met for the second time. However, now Alexandra went to Littlebridge Farm, near Hastings, Kent, which Brown rented for meetings with women and other purposes. During August and September, they met 7 more times, and Alexandra did not suspect that she was falling more and more into a trap. On October 23, 2021, Brown sent her a text message asking if she would be interested in a risk-free business transaction he was offering. The proposal referred to £100,000, 3 days at a hotel he would be guarding, a new ID, a straight car, and shopping money. All he needed her to do was go out for a cigarette, bag up cash, and buy some things. Testament to her character, online searches made by Alexandra after this proposal showed that she was keen to better the lives of her children. One of these searches was minimum deposit for a house 2021. A selection of other searches showed Alexandra's intention to form new businesses with the money she would make. Among the internet searches made were, "How much can you earn running a sunbed shop UK?" and "How much tax would I pay on 100,000?" When Alexandra told her parents about going to the spa with her friends, she was actually planning to meet Mark Brown at the farm. She left the house on November 14th, and CCTV footage captured her buying gas in Cranbrook at 7:20 a.m. She arrived at Littlebridge Farm around 8 a.m. 3 days later, on November 17th, Brown moved Alexandra's car to Holmhurst Lane, St. Leonards, having previously switched her license plate with a fake one. On November 18th, Alexandra's mother went to the police after her daughter did not pick up the children and stopped answering calls and texts. On November 23rd, the police found CCTV footage showing Alexandra's car following Brown's Jaguar on the road to Littlebridge Farm. Kent Police blocked access to the farm and started asking Brown questions. He admitted that he had met with Alexandra. However, he said she left after 45 minutes. He said the police could take his fingerprints and a DNA sample. 2 days later, on November 25th, they arrested Brown as the main suspect in the Alexandra Morgan case. But before we continue, and before I tell you what happened to her, we need to go back to when Alexandra didn't know Mark Brown yet. Leah Ware was 33 years old, mother of 3. However, she did not have custody of her children. Leah was an animal lover devoted to her horse, 3 goats, and 2 dogs, a Mastiff called Duke, and a Pomeranian named Lady. Leah had come to know Mark Brown on March 25, 2018, when he reached out to her on an escort website where she advertised her services. It was the same website where Brown would meet Alexandra Morgan a few years later. By the end of 2018, Brown and Ware had started dating and renting an apartment together. When the lease expired 6 months later, she moved into Brown's yard at Little Bridge Farm, where she lived in a shipping container. Brown described their relationship as a roller coaster. As it became known, Leah led a chaotic lifestyle. She was a benefit claimant and received weekly payments into her account, which were often withdrawn for her by Brown. She did have a history of illegal substance use and mental health illness. Yet many people said she was working hard to get custody of her children. When describing her daughter, Leah's mom said, "She was an angel, really." She added that though Leah was never fond of school, she had always preferred her animals. Brown and Ware's relationship lasted 3 years before she disappeared without a trace in May 2021. Leah spent the evening of May 5th and the early hours of May 6th with a friend and convicted dealer of illegal substances, Jack Tyler. They took those substances together. That evening, there was an intimate relationship between them. It was the last time anyone saw Leah. The last outgoing call made from her phone was on May 7th at 8:55 a.m. The police believed that she died on that day. 2 weeks later, Mark Brown returned to the website where he met Leah. On June 8, 2021, a month after she disappeared without a trace, Alexandra met Brown for the first time at her home. Their meeting went well. She saw Brown as a reasonable and generous man, but Alexandra had no idea that just a month ago, another woman who was in a relationship with Brown disappeared without a trace. During the investigation, the detectives found very revealing messages sent by Brown. He wrote them to his high school girlfriend 5 days after he met Alexandra Morgan. However, these messages were not about Alexandra. They were about Leah Ware. Here's what they said. "I'm going to be very careful how I word this. It happened again, not very long ago when disposing of something. It's a very unpleasant thing to do. An old oil drum, 5 liters of diesel, and hey presto, there's not very much left. It gets hot, very hot. It glows almost white. The things I have done weigh heavily on my heart, on my head, and my soul. A psychopath with a conscience. It's a joke, really." Thus, investigators started suspecting that Alexandra Morgan was dead, and more frighteningly, that she was not the only victim of Mark Brown. A spokesperson for Sussex Police Major Crime Team said, "Despite extensive investigations, we have not found Leah or her body and are appealing for the help of the public to try to locate her or anything connected with her disappearance." After Brown's arrest on November 25, 2021, the police searched his farm. There, they found a barrel inside which someone had recently burned something. Examining its contents, experts found the remains of bones and teeth. Laboratory examination left no doubt that these were the remains of Alexandra Morgan. In a joint statement, Neil Kimber of Kent Police and Andy Wolstenholme from Sussex Police said, "Our thoughts are with the families of both Alexandra and Leah at this difficult time. Whilst we have located the remains of Alexandra, we have yet to find Leah, and our investigations remain ongoing. We are appealing for anyone with information regarding either Leah or Alexandra to contact us urgently." Police described Leah as a 5 feet, 6 in tall white female of slim build with very long black hair and blue eyes. They said she possibly had tattoos of a dragon on her right leg, Chinese writing on her right hip, and a fairy sitting on a flower over the name Ryan on her right leg. The search at Brown's farm lasted about a month, ending on January 7, 2022. In the pond, the police found the bones of a Pomeranian with some weight tied to a collar. Investigators believed it was Leah's dog, which Brown so cruelly got rid of following the death of Leah herself. Although police were unable to find Leah Ware's remains, they still charged Brown with taking her life on February 1, 2022. Earlier, they charged him with taking the life of Alexandra Morgan. During the interrogation, Brown denied the charges against him. However, when they informed him of the evidence indicating that he had disposed of Alexandra Morgan's body by fire, he admitted her death. Yet, Brown was adamant that Alexandra had died as a result of an accident. The trial of Mark Brown began on October 17, 2022. New details of these two cases became known during the court sessions. The jury learned that Brown regularly withdrew money from Leah Ware's bank account after her disappearance. After Leah's disappearance on May 7, 2021, Brown collected her prescription medication and withdrew money at a cash point using her new bank card every week. They delivered the card to the address of his sister Cheryl. He would then leave the cash and medication in a horse box belonging to their pet, Birdie. Prosecution lawyer Duncan Atkinson detailed a number of times in the weeks after Leah Ware's disappearance when Brown took £200 from her account, the maximum allowed in a transaction. This led to Leah's balance falling from more than £2,000 to £45, jurors were told. In July 2021, Brown twice withdrew £200 from Leah Ware's account. Shortly after, he transferred £200 to his account. When asked why he did this, he said, "I probably used her £200, then replaced it. At that time, someone owed me £430, so they probably paid me back." Atkinson said, "The reality is the withdrawals of money from Leah Ware's account had nothing to do with her and everything to do with you. Is it a coincidence she died after her new bank card arrived?" Brown replied, "I don't know what you're getting at because as far as I'm aware, she's not dead." Atkinson asked, "You were running off Ms. Ware's money, weren't you? You knew Leah was somewhere where money wasn't going to help her." Brown replied, "I don't know what planet you're living on." Leah wanted Brown to leave his wife for her. One of her friends said this during testimony at the trial. Perhaps it played some role in Brown's decision to commit this crime. During the trial related to Alexandra Morgan's death, Brown reiterated that her death was an accident. He claimed that Alexandra slipped and fell on some tool, hitting her head, in the workshop he rented at Little Bridge Farm. He said he ran over to her and saw there was a lot of blood. Therefore, he got a towel to try to stop the bleeding from her head. When he moved her head to place the towel under it, there was even more blood. Prosecution lawyer Duncan Atkinson objected, saying, "When you first saw she's gone to the ground on her back, there's already a lot of blood around her head, so it's clear before you do anything else that she's hurt and needs help and needs a doctor. That's absolutely obvious." Brown replied, "Yes, but I was panicked and the first thing I did was grab a towel to stop the bleeding. At that point, she was gone, and it was my priority to try and do CPR because I couldn't find a pulse. I didn't call an ambulance because my priority was to try and stop the bleeding and then to get a pulse. There's no point calling an ambulance if it's not going to get there on time. Your priority is to stop the bleeding." After attempting CPR and holding a mirror to Alexandra Morgan's mouth and nose to check for breath, Brown said he was sure she had died. In the 5 minutes or so after that, he used jumpers to stop blood flowing out from under the workshop door, went outside to vomit, and retrieved his mobile phone from either his car or jacket pocket to call the emergency services. He then decided to cover the whole thing up, saying, "I wrapped Alex in a sleeping bag and put a towel around her head to stop more blood coming out. I had a dead escort on my workshop floor. What would it look like? How would I prove she had an accident? It was a stupid thing to do. It was the worst mistake I ever made in my life." Brown then decided to dispose of Alexandra's body using an incinerator he had fashioned out of an old oil drum earlier that year and used regularly to burn waste. He said, "I'd heard urban legends about people burning bodies, and I didn't want anyone to come across a body dumped somewhere." Thus, Brown claimed that he had nothing to do with the disappearance of Leah Ware and believed that she was alive, and Alexandra's death was allegedly an accident. However, during the trial, the court heard the testimony of Brown's boss, Alan Downs. The man said Brown warned him that the police might come for him and arrest him. This conversation took place on November 24th. When Downs asked what the police might arrest him for, Brown replied, "For a double murder." And this was a crucial point. With this answer, Brown indirectly admitted that Leah Ware was dead and that Alexandra Morgan did not die as a result of an accident. However, Brown denied saying such words. He said, "No, I said I'm going away for 25 to life. I don't know where he got double from. I said I would be arrested for one murder. I didn't say double. Atkinson said, when asked, who have you killed? The answer should have been no one. Brown replied, it should have been, yes, but that's not what I thought was going to happen. I can't prove I didn't kill Alex, and I didn't think anyone would believe me. That's why I did what I did. They were both mums, daughters, and much more to their family and friends, and both lost their lives in the cruelest of circumstances. Both fell into the trap of an evil maniac. They left behind children and devastated families. Throughout the murder trial at Hove Crown Court, jurors learned about the lives of both Leah Ware and Alex Morgan, from their upbringings to their children and relationships, their work, and their passions. Jurors also heard attempts from Brown to, as the prosecutor once put it, blacken their names, painting a false picture of the women. The memories of Leah Ware and Alex Morgan smiling and enjoying life should be what people remember about them. Both deserve to remain in the memories of their loved ones for their numerous qualities. On December 1st, 2022, a jury of 10 men and 2 women found 41-year-old Brown guilty on all counts. Judge Nicholas Hilliard said, "This is clearly a case of the utmost gravity, and the effect on the victims' families must be absolutely devastating." He said the court would sentence Brown to life in prison, and he would have to decide the minimum prison term, or indeed consider if he will ever be released for parole license. The judge also said that if Brown decided to tell what he had done with Leah Ware's body, he would take it into account during sentencing. However, Brown did not take this chance. Before the judge passed down his sentence, the court heard a victim impact statement from Leah Ware's mother, Rebecca Martin. She said, "Brown continues to extend his sadistic torture of our family's life by not telling us what happened to her. She lost her life because Mark Brown wanted to gratify his depraved desires. He controlled and manipulated every aspect of her life, and then when he had had enough, he discarded her like a piece of dirt." The court also heard from Alex Morgan's parents, who said she was bright and energetic, with a determination to succeed. She had challenges, but she was overcoming them and had hopes for her future with her 2 children who she adored. On January 13, 2023, the court sentenced Mark Brown to 2 life sentences. He will be able to apply for parole in 49 years. Judge Hilliard, who sentenced Brown in his absence after he refused to come to the court, said, "No sentence I pass is any measure of the lives lost. Nothing can put right what the defendant has done. That is not possible. His conscience is untroubled by what he has done." In this video, we'll discuss the events that occurred in 2021 in England. 19-year-old Ashley Wadsworth was full of hope when she left her family home in Canada and went to the UK. She flew over 4,000 miles to meet the guy she had been chatting with online for many years. In this video, we will find out how online dating can end. Born on July 25, 2002, in Vernon, British Columbia, Ashley Ann Wadsworth was the youngest of 2 daughters in the family of Kenneth Wadsworth and Christy Gendron. After graduating from high school, Ashley planned to continue her studies. She loved spending time with her family and friends. Everyone loved her deeply. The girl brought great happiness to others. Ashley was extremely passionate about traveling and loved art, skiing, swimming, tennis, and other outdoor activities. Vernon is about 270 miles northeast of Vancouver and has a population of about 43,000. Ashley dreamed of leaving this place and seeing other cities and countries. Most of all, she wanted to visit the UK, and this dream was not spontaneous. When Ashley was around 12 years old, she did not yet have a smartphone, unlike her peers. Therefore, she used the family laptop to watch her friends' and classmates' activity on social media. She knew it wasn't unusual to add dozens of friends and write messages to people she did not personally know. In 2015, a friend from Vernon introduced her online to an English boy named Jack Seppel. Ashley was 12 years old at the time, and Jack was 16. She had always been interested in the world, and the fact that Jack lived on another continent increased her interest in him. He was like a window to distant and unknown places. At that time, Jack was living with his mother in Chelmsford. It's a city of about 180,000 people, an hour's drive from London. While Ashley was a very outgoing person, Jack, on the contrary, was a bit withdrawn. It seemed that his main interest was social media. Their age difference of 3.5 years did not seem strange because they were just pen pals, but over time, they became closer. They talked daily, and after about 2 months, Ashley started mentioning Jack in conversations with her parents and older sister Haley. Ashley's parents, Christy and Kenneth, were divorced. However, this did not affect their relationship with their children. Ashley's mother was wary of the developing relationship, as she feared that someone else could be hiding behind the photos of the teenager. But when Ashley and Jack started FaceTiming in the family living room, Christy calmed down. She sometimes even greeted Jack. The woman liked his English accent. Christy thought that her daughter's interest in him would fade. Yet, the girl fell in love. For 7 years, Jack and Ashley texted and FaceTimed each other. Sometimes they quarreled and stopped communicating, but these periods were short. Jack sent Ashley gifts, clothes, teddy bears, jewelry, a purse, and sometimes money. His face and name regularly appeared in Wadsworth's household. Due to the 8-hour time difference, Ashley had to wake up before dawn to talk to Jack, and the latter would stay up late at night waiting for the call. Over time, Ashley and Jack had a common dream. They wanted to meet in real life someday. But for now, they were just an image on the screen for each other. When Ashley turned 15, she asked her mother if she could visit Jack. Christy's answer was negative. She could not imagine how her 15-year-old daughter would go to a distant country to meet a man she had never seen before. Of course, Ashley was upset by the refusal, but she did not despair and said she would go when she reached the age of majority. As they grew older, the couple began to quarrel more often. The most frequent reason for this was jealousy on Jack's part. He was afraid that Ashley might start a relationship with one of her peers from Vernon. Ashley tried to convince Jack and said she loved him, but he was very jealous. Sometimes their quarrels ended with Ashley blocking Jack so he couldn't call and text her, but that didn't stop him. He created new social media accounts to text her or contact her sister and friends, knowing they would tell Ashley about it. Some of her friends thought Jack was obsessed. However, Ashley always tried to defend Jack, saying he was very passionate. Sometimes the reason for their quarrels was Jack dating other girls. They would stop communicating during such periods, but they could not stay without each other for a long time. According to her mother, Ashley always compared her other boyfriends to Jack. In addition to his fascination with social media, Jack was passionate about tattoos. In October 2018, when he was almost 20 and Ashley was 16, he got a new tattoo, which he proudly showed her. He now had her name written on his arm. That's how Jack wanted to show his dedication and seriousness of intentions. Sometimes he called Ashley his future wife. Christy Gendron said this tattoo was too much. She forbade her daughter to get a tattoo with Jack's name, but Ashley said she never thought about it. The relationship with Jack became increasingly tumultuous. He showed some signs of controlling behavior even from a distance. Perhaps Ashley did not attach importance to this due to her age. During one of the quarrels, he ran a knife over his tattoo with Ashley's name. At that moment, she thought it was a crazy way to tell her he loved her. At the same time, she started hiding some details of Jack's behavior from her loved ones. In 2020, when Ashley was already 18 years old, she received several calls from women whom Jack dated and with whom he often quarreled too. One of them told Ashley that Jack wouldn't let her out of the house and asked her to talk to him and calm him down. Although Jack dated other women from time to time, he never kept it a secret. Or maybe she just thought so. Ashley was a teenage girl who hadn't realized yet that Jack was a skilled manipulator and that his behavior was abusive. She had intended to break off relations with him many times, but he always sincerely apologized, saying she was the only girl he loved. Ashley was a spiritual person who found God through the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She was baptized Mormon in April 2021. Ashley started working part-time as soon as it was legally possible. She worked at McDonald's, Burger King, and some other companies. The girl got her own money, and her first purchase was an iPad. Now, she didn't have to use the family laptop to communicate with Jack. Her dream of seeing him in real life did not go away. Ashley's parents had previously forbidden her to visit Jack, but now she was an adult and could make her own decisions. She had her own money, which made her dream come true. The girl got a 6-month tourist visa and bought a plane ticket to London. On November 12, 2021, 19-year-old Ashley said goodbye to her family, and her father took her to the airport. Her parents were, of course, worried about her, but they could no longer stop or convince her. "I thought the worst thing that will happen is she'll go. They won't work out, and then she'll come home," said her mother, Christy. While sitting on the plane waiting for departure, Ashley posted a message to her family on Snapchat. "I'm in my plane," she said. "It's huge." After 7 years of online communication and 10 hours on the plane, the couple finally met in real life. It was an exciting moment for both of them. Ashley's friends and family watched as she posted photos of herself and Jack on social media. She seemed to be happy. Ashley moved into Jack's house in northwest Chelmsford, where he has lived since 2020. Their story seemed like a fairy tale, and none of Ashley's family suspected this love story would have such a bad ending. But everything seemed perfect so far. Ashley posted photos of her trips with Jack together. They visited many places and seemed to be a happy couple in each published picture. The real-life Jack was just what Ashley imagined him to be, communicating with him online for so many years. That is, he was not trying to be perfect. Jack was kind and sentimental. Sometimes he was angry, showing his bad temper. They spent all their time together, as Jack was unemployed and lived on money provided by his mother, who lived nearby. And Ashley couldn't get a job because she was a tourist in the UK. She started noticing that Jack had no friends. He had no life apart from social media and a game console. Soon, he started showing the first signs of controlling behavior. He didn't like that Ashley was talking to one of the neighbors. This situation was strange to her. She always had friends and was not one of those who spent most of her time sitting at home. Before Ashley left Canada, a friend from the church put her in touch with some American missionaries about her age who were supposed to be in Chelmsford at the same time as her. When she arrived in London, she told Jack she wanted to meet these people, but he disapproved of her plans and did not allow her to attend Sunday services. It was another red flag in their relationship. Ashley was getting bored, as they now spent most of their time at home. Since Jack forbade her to attend church, she contacted the missionaries via text messages, keeping it a secret from Jack because she knew he would not like it. She deleted WhatsApp conversations because he was constantly checking her phone. Every day, Jack's behavior changed for the worse. 6 weeks after Ashley arrived, he hit her for the first time. That day, he texted his mother that he had smacked Ashley because he found out that she had blocked 2 British numbers on her phone years ago. He assumed that these numbers belonged to other men. "That's no reason to lay a hand on her," his mother replied. Thus, Ashley was in a foreign country, far from home and family, and alone with a man who was experiencing psychological problems. Behind the photos of smiling and happy couples are often sad and miserable people. The day after Jack hit her, Ashley changed her Facebook photo to a picture of Jack hugging her and captioned it "My Bestie" with a red heart. At the same time, she created a secret album on her phone where she kept photos of her bruises, which appeared due to abuse by Jack. Ashley told her sister Haley that he was not the man she imagined in her dreams. At the same time, she threatened to stop communicating with Haley if the latter told their mom about it. Jack regularly took sedatives. As already mentioned, he was a skilled manipulator. Jack had a history of self-harm. When he was angry or wanted his girlfriends to comfort him, he hurt himself, but he always did it so as not to endanger his life. Jack used a similar manipulation with Ashley. At the end of December 2021, he swallowed a supply of sedative medication, and Ashley had to call an ambulance. It took him to the hospital, where he received the necessary help. Ashley didn't tell her mom or her friends anything about the incident. The only person who knew about it was her sister Haley. The latter asked her sister to come home. The following month, in January 2022, Jack smashed a beer mug over Ashley's head. She FaceTimed her sister and cried while Jack screamed and forced her to clean up the pieces. Haley was shocked. She begged her sister to fly home, but it didn't work out. Over the next few weeks, like many other manipulators, Jack showed his better side, giving Ashley reason to believe he realized his mistakes and had changed his behavior pattern. But that was just an act that did not last long. Soon, Jack became enraged once again. He found old messages from a young Canadian man on Ashley's phone. He demanded social media passwords from her, and she provided them to him. During a fight in late January 2022, Jack hit Ashley again and threw a TV remote at her while she was FaceTiming with Haley, who once again begged her sister to come home. Ashley agreed at first, but then changed her mind. Her family believes Ashley changed her mind because Jack apologized, promising he would change. Thus, their relationship split into alternating cycles. Everything seems fine. Jack beats her up, and then he apologizes. On January 30th, Jack Seppel texted his sister, "I'm obsessed with Ashley's past." From that moment, it was only a matter of hours before the point of no return. On the morning of February 1st, Jack was furious again. Shortly before 8 a.m., the couple's neighbor heard Ashley's screams through the wall. A few moments later, Ashley appeared at her door in tears. She ran out into the street barefoot and with blood dripping from the cut on her palm. Ashley said Jack hit her, smashed her phone, and threw their kitten against the wall. Ashley was afraid for her life. At the same time, she asked her neighbor not to call the police because she didn't want Jack to harm himself, and she was afraid they would send him to prison. The neighbor went to talk to Jack. As usual, he used his skills to pretend to be a good person, apologized, and said everything would be fine. Hence, the neighbor left, and Ashley decided to return to Jack. Unfortunately, no one saw her alive after the door slammed behind her. About an hour later, another neighbor brought a package for Jack, which was delivered to her by mistake. While he was talking to her at the front door, Ashley took advantage of the situation and called her family from Jack's phone. She asked for help and said she wanted to go home. Christy was shocked when she discovered how things were going in her daughter's relationship with Jack Seppel. The family immediately booked Ashley a plane ticket for February 3rd. Christy told Jack that if he tried to harm her daughter again, she would immediately report him to the police. When Ashley and her family finished talking, it was about 3 a.m. in Vernon and 11 a.m. in Chelmsford. As soon as Ashley hung up the phone, Jack stopped pretending to be a good person and immediately attacked her. A few minutes later, he texted his mother via WhatsApp, "I beat up Ashley really bad." After another 14 minutes, he wrote, "She thinks she broke her arm. I picked her up and threw her on the ground and punched her and ripped her all around the lounge." At that time, Ashley was still alive, but unfortunately, there was no one to help her. From 11:22 a.m. to 12:38 p.m., she used Jack's phone to send messages. She wrote to family and friends in Vernon, where it was the middle of the night, and to her church acquaintances in Chelmsford. "It's Ashley," she wrote to one friend. "I need your help. It's an emergency, please." A couple of hours later, they received new messages which said everything was now fine. However, it wasn't Ashley who sent them. It was Seppel. None of those to whom Ashley wrote saw these messages right away. Shortly before 1 p.m., Jack Seppel strangled Ashley Wadsworth, but it didn't seem enough to him. He went to the kitchen, picked up a knife, and returned to the bedroom. He stabbed her at least 90 times in the chest and abdomen. Later that day, Jack changed his Facebook profile picture to a photo of himself and Ashley at Gatwick months earlier. He captioned it, "Forever Mine." Concerned, Ashley's church friends, Jamie Ashworth and Taylor Borden, visited the Tennyson Road property. When there was no answer, they called the police. While in the bedroom next to Ashley's body, Jack recorded a video message for her sister Haley. "I'm so sorry, Haley, for taking your sister," he said. He also said that he loved Ashley and couldn't let her go. He never sent this video to Haley. After recording the video, he inflicted minor superficial stab wounds to his chest. According to investigators, he could have done it to claim self-defense later. At about 4 p.m., the police arrived at the house. They knocked on the door, asking Seppel to come out. They saw that he was inside through the window, but Jack wasn't going to open the door. At that time, he was talking via video link with his sister, to whom he confessed that he had taken Ashley's life. The police broke down the door and arrested Seppel. They described him as calm. In the morning, Ashley's family saw a flurry of messages. They tried to contact her, but she wasn't picking up. Soon after, they found out what had happened while they were sleeping. Kenneth Wadsworth, Ashley's father, will never forget that day on February 1st. He woke up and found out that his daughter was dead. "Your heart breaks," he says. "It is really tough. That's your baby girl and she's gone." There aren't words to describe that sorrow. Kenneth traveled to the UK with his wife Charmaine to handle the paperwork and collect Ashley's body. Aside from the enormous grief felt at home by her family, the Chelmsford community also mourned her loss, despite many of them never actually knowing her. They held vigils in fields near where she had been killed, with flowers, balloons, and candles placed in her memory. After his arrest, Jack Seppel told police that he had gone psychotic. Despite these statements, a psychiatric examination determined that he was aware of his actions at the time of the crime and that he could stand trial. Ashley's family was shocked by the grief that had befallen them. But another shock awaited them when they learned that Jack Seppel had a long history of controlling behavior and harassment. In 2014, even before Ashley, 15-year-old Seppel met a 14-year-old girl online. He photographed her naked without permission, and when she broke up with him, he posted these pictures for everyone to see. She filed a restraining order. A month later, Seppel violated this order. That same year, he quarreled with his mother over his Xbox, pushed her to the floor, and ripped the door off its hinges. When the restraining order expired in 2017, Seppel again contacted the victim. Although the girl ignored his messages, he wasn't planning to back down. In January 2018, he sent her a message saying, "Please reply. You are never going to get rid of me, even if I have to go to prison over you. I'll see you soon, and I will turn up wherever you live." By then, he had been in contact with Ashley for 3 years. Even Seppel's mother has requested a restraining order against him. It happened in July 2018 when Jack again damaged the door, smashed her car, and broke the windows in her house. The court sentenced him to 8 weeks in a juvenile correctional facility. In September 2018, he violated the restraining order again. The following month, he pleaded guilty to trying to break into a nursing home. The court sentenced him to 21 days in prison. Seppel spent more and more time online as if looking for a victim. In March 2020, he met a woman on Facebook, and they began to live together. This woman quickly realized that he was a dangerous man. He was very jealous, and his behavior was unpredictable. When she said she was leaving him, Jack grabbed her by the throat and locked her in the house, but she managed to get out through the window and escape. There was another similar incident, but with a different woman. In total, Seppel had committed 12 crimes, and almost all of them were domestic violence. "We had no idea of his history. I feel like I sent her to the wolves," Ashley's father said. Kenneth and Christy want others to learn from their daughter's story. If something doesn't feel right, act. If you know in your gut that your sister, your friend, your aunt, your mom, or your daughter is in a situation or a relationship like that, then definitely call the police and intervene. Step in. Speaking about her daughter, Christy also said the following words: "We should have reached out ahead of time through Claire's Law. We learned the hardest lesson of all. Our beautiful Ashley flew to England excited, alive and well, but sadly flew home in a box. Please be warned and leave these violent, toxic, and dangerous relationships now. If your gut tells you something isn't right then, please trust that feeling and intervene right away, even if they say it's fine and they're okay. The most dangerous time for a victim of domestic violence is when they decide to end the relationship and leave. Call the police to help them pack up their belongings and escort them out of there to safety. It's too late to save Ashley, but it's not too late to save yourself or someone you love. The trial began in September 2022. Seppel pleaded guilty to taking the life of Ashley Wadsworth. The prosecution case included strong witness testimony from neighbors and friends detailing the toxic behavior displayed by Seppel, as well as the events leading up to the murder. It included voice notes Ashley had recorded and sent to friends. In those notes, Seppel had told her he would kill her. The judge said that Seppel's attack on Ashley was brutal and cowardly. The judge said Seppel had 8 previous convictions for 12 crimes and that they were nearly all for domestic violence. The judge stated that it showed a clear pattern of violent and controlling behavior for a number of women. On October 10, 2022, the court sentenced Jack Seppel to life in prison. He will have the right to apply for parole after 23.5 years. Through his lawyers, Seppel gave Ashley's parents a note of apology, but they did not believe that he had repented of what he had done. Great, he's going to get time, but in the UK, like Canada, life is only 25 years. Ultimately, it won't bring her back, said Ashley's mother. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today, we'll discuss the events that took place in Massachusetts. At 6:30 a.m. on May 20th, 2008, the Boston police received a call from the manager of the Parker Hill Apartments complex. The man was very disturbed. He informed the dispatcher that he saw a door ajar in one of the apartments on the 3rd floor. A 22-year-old student, Rebecca Payne, lived in this apartment. When he knocked on the door and called her name, no one answered him. It alarmed him, and he decided to go inside. There, he immediately saw dark red spots and streaks on the floor. They led him to one of the rooms. When he entered, he found Rebecca lying on the floor with no signs of life and her belongings scattered. The mess in the room suggested that whoever had taken Rebecca's life was looking for something in her apartment. Rebecca Charlotte Payne was born on April 19, 1986. She was the only child of Virginia and Nicholas Payne of New Milford, Connecticut. Rebecca graduated from New Milford High School in 2004. While at high school, she was keen on sports, playing field hockey, track, and tennis. Rebecca then enrolled in Northeastern University in Boston to study athletic training. This program involved the care and prevention of athletic injuries. In the 4th year of the 5-year program, she was on the Dean's Council and was president of the Athletic Training Club. Rebecca was instrumental in organizing Northeastern University's A Vision for the Future Athletic Training Leadership Forum. She was also involved in the Episcopal Lutheran Center. She had many friends. She could find common ground with everyone. Rebecca was always ready to help if someone needed her. Thus, when she was found dead in May 2008, her friends could not believe what had happened and did not understand who could have done this to her. When the police arrived at the crime scene, they immediately noticed the front door had no signs of forced entry. It could indicate that Rebecca probably knew the person who took her life. Perhaps she let them in herself. Her apartment, located on the 3rd floor, had 2 bedrooms. In one of them, Rebecca was lying face down on the floor. The red streaks from the living room to the bedroom where Rebecca was lying indicated that the attack took place in the living room. The casings found there also confirmed this. During the forensic examination, the experts established that someone had shot Rebecca 5 times. Judging by the blood traces in the apartment, she was still conscious for some time and was able to crawl to the bedroom, but her strength left her there. The detectives had to find out who could have done this to her. Who could deal with her so cruelly? The police almost immediately ruled out the version that what happened was a theft that went wrong. After all, her valuables remained untouched. Things in her apartment were scattered, but detectives concluded that this was the way the perpetrator wanted to mislead them. However, It was also possible that the mess was the result of Rebecca resisting and fighting for her life. When examining the apartment, the investigators noticed that the balcony door was open in the same way as the front door. The situation in the second bedroom indicated that someone had lived in it too. They needed to find out the identity of this person since it was they who could take Rebecca's life, and if this was not the case, they needed to exclude them from the list of suspects. After talking to the manager, the detectives learned that Rebecca did not live alone. She rented an apartment with her fellow student, and now the police started looking for her. At the same time, the police interviewed all residents of Parker Hill Apartments. Someone had shot Rebecca 5 times, and it would hardly have been possible to carry out something like this silently. The officers were shocked when it turned out that between 3 and 4 a.m., numerous residents of the apartment complex heard a woman screaming and the sounds of gunshots. But unfortunately, no one bothered to call the police. Perhaps everyone thought that someone else would do it. In psychology, this is called the bystander effect, or Genovese syndrome. The bystander effect, or bystander apathy, is a social psychological theory that states that individuals are less likely to help a victim in the presence of other people. On March 13, 1964, 28-year-old Kitty Genovese was deprived of her life near the apartment building where she lived. It was in Kew Gardens, Queens, in New York City. 2 weeks after the incident, the New York Times published an article erroneously claiming that 38 witnesses saw or heard the attack and that none of them called the police or came to her aid. The common portrayal of neighbors being fully aware but completely non-responsive was later criticized as inaccurate. Nonetheless, it prompted an investigation into the social psychological phenomenon that later became known as the bystander effect, or Genovese syndrome. Unfortunately, in the case of Rebecca Payne, neighbors did hear her screams, as well as the sound of gunshots, but no one called 911, and such indifference is shocking. For Rebecca's parents, her death was a heavy loss. As stated by her parents, Rebecca was a driven and compassionate young woman surrounded by her friends. She gave out of her heart. She was always thinking about others, always helping, Virginia Payne said. When interviewing residents, the police spoke with a man who lived on the first floor of the apartment complex. He told them he saw a black SUV approaching the building at night. However, he couldn't see the car's license plates and who was getting out of it because it was dark outside. The apartment building where the crime occurred had surveillance cameras installed both inside and outside. Investigators hoped that the CCTV footage would help them solve this case. They asked the building manager to provide them with these recordings. However, it turned out that the footage from those cameras could only be viewed in real time. The equipment there was outdated, and to record the footage, it was necessary to insert a video cassette into a VCR and press the record button, but no one did this. Taking into account this information, as well as the fact that it was the manager of the residential complex who found Rebecca's body, investigators started suspecting him of committing this crime. He also lived in this building, and thus had constant access to Rebecca's apartment. He knew that no one was watching the surveillance cameras. Perhaps he waited until late at night and then attacked Rebecca for some reason. The police wanted to check all possible versions. Suspicion against the manager intensified when the police ran a background check on him. It turned out that he had previously had problems with the law related to prohibited substances. There was something else that caught the attention of the police. One of the officers noticed several dark red stains on the front door of his apartment. Criminologists swabbed this stain and sent it for examination. Meanwhile, the apartment complex manager was taken to the police station for questioning. The investigators asked him lots of questions, trying to find out if he was hiding something and whether he would start changing his story. But he denied any involvement in the death of Rebecca Payne, saying that he spent the whole night in his apartment and was not alone but with his wife. The investigators talked to his wife, and the latter confirmed that her husband had spent the whole night with her, providing him with an alibi. When a report from the laboratory stated that the dark red stains on his apartment door were just paint, the police released him since there were no grounds for his arrest. Looking through video and photo materials from the scene, the detectives drew attention to this card. This card is used to pay for public transport in the Boston area, and each use of such a card remained in the system, along with data on exactly where and at what time it was used. The transit police provided detectives investigating Rebecca's case with CCTV footage. After reviewing these recordings, the detectives determined that this card was used by Rebecca. She was heading home and was calm and alone, and apparently no one was following her. Thus, this footage did not help to get on the trail of the criminal. A few days later, the investigators obtained another video from the surveillance camera. This camera was installed outside the hospital building near the Parker Hill Apartments. In this recording, officers noticed a black SUV that was passing by during the same time when the attack on Rebecca took place. This car also matched the description of the witness. However, the recording was of poor quality and did not allow them to see the car's license plates. They came to the conclusion that it was a Ford car. After identifying the girl who was Rebecca's roommate, the detectives invited her to the station to ask a few questions. They needed to find out if she was connected in any way to what had happened. She said she was shocked when she found out that someone had taken Rebecca's life. According to her, she moved in with her parents while she was preparing for the exam. When her father and mother confirmed this, she was excluded from the list of suspects. But the investigators' conversation with her was not a waste of time. She shared with them information that could potentially be useful for the investigation. According to her, there was another person with access to their apartment, and this person was Rebecca's boyfriend, Matt, their fellow student. But did Matt have a motive for taking Rebecca's life? The investigators had to find the answer to this question. They contacted Matt by phone, and he informed them that he had left Boston to live with his parents in New York State around the same time as the attack on Rebecca happened. It seemed that he was depressed because of his girlfriend's death, but it could just be an act. According to Matt, he was staying with his parents all this time. They confirmed his words. After receiving a printout of call history from Matt's cell phone, investigators found out that he had been talking to Rebecca on the phone the night she was attacked. The conversation happened at about midnight, a few hours before her death. But it also became known that the cell tower that received the signal from Matt's phone was located near his parents' house in New York State. Investigators conducted an experiment and established that Matt wouldn't have had time to drive from his parents' house to Boston in 3 or 4 hours and commit this crime. Thus, he was also excluded from the list of suspects. Family and friends were saying goodbye to Rebecca in her home state of Connecticut, but the police still had no evidence, no new witnesses, and no DNA samples that could help in an investigation that had obviously reached a dead end. We think of Rebecca, the fact that she will never be with us. We will never hear her laugh, never telling us what she gets up to or her progress in life. That's all been taken from us, said Nicholas Payne. Years passed, but Rebecca's parents never got answers to their questions. Their daughter's death was still unsolved. However, in 2012, an event occurred that can be called an unexpected break. The Boston police arrested a man named Anthony White for illegal substance trafficking. He was facing long-term imprisonment. Realizing this, White offered investigators a deal, promising them he would tell details about the night Rebecca Payne died in exchange for a reduced sentence. The investigators knew this might be the only chance to solve the old case, and thus accepted this deal after consulting with the prosecutor. White said that on May 20th, 2008, he was contacted by an acquaintance named Cornell Smith, who, like him, was involved in dealing prohibited substances. Smith told White that he wanted to meet with him. Smith arrived at the appointed place with their mutual friend, Michael Balba, who was behind the wheel of a black SUV. The three of them headed to the Parker Hill Apartments. Balba parked where they could see what was happening inside the apartments. According to White, when Cornell Smith saw Rebecca in a window on the 3rd floor, he said, "That's her. They stayed there for a while and waited for the lights to go out in Rebecca's apartment. After the lights went out and they decided that the girl inside had fallen asleep, Smith climbed onto the first-floor balcony, from there to the second-floor balcony, and then the third-floor one. The door from the balcony to the room was open, so he went inside. But Rebecca wasn't sleeping. She was lying on the couch in the living room. When she saw the intruder, she started screaming. A short struggle ensued, after which Smith fired 5 shots at her. Then he left the apartment through the front door, went downstairs, and they drove away. Investigators doubted the veracity of White's testimony. Perhaps he came up with this story based on information he learned from the news to get a reduced prison sentence. The officers did not understand what the motive was. Why did Cornell Smith need to take the life of Rebecca, who had absolutely nothing to do with the world in which he lived? What White said next surprised and upset them very much. According to White, Rebecca's death was a case of mistaken identity. 2 sisters lived on the first floor of the Parker Hill apartments. One of them looked very similar to Rebecca. These sisters, who lived on the first floor, were Smith's rivals and illegal substance dealers. Smith believed that he got arrested because of those sisters and decided to take revenge on them. He knew they lived in the Parker Hill apartments, but he did not know on which floor and in which apartment specifically. Therefore, when Cornell Smith saw Rebecca in the window, he mistook her for one of the sisters he wanted to take revenge on. Checking the biography of Cornell Smith, investigators found out that in February 2008, he got arrested for dealing prohibited substances. However, shortly before Rebecca's death, he was released on bail. He decided to take revenge on the sisters, who, in his opinion, were the reason why he got arrested. Let me remind you that Anthony White told all this to investigators in 2012. By this time, Cornell Smith was already in prison. 2 years before that, the court sentenced him to 12 years for selling prohibited substances. Now, after White's testimony, he was also charged with taking Rebecca's life. However, he denied any involvement in the case. Before Smith appeared in court, prosecutors received news that would devastate the case. Anthony White died in prison, and now the prosecution has lost its main witness. There was no physical evidence linking Smith to Rebecca Payne's apartment, which is why White's testimony was so important. However, the prosecution's hope that Smith would receive the punishment he deserved was not lost, since there was another person in the car with White and Smith on the night of the crime. And this person was Michael Balba. Detectives tracked him down and discovered he owned a black Ford Expedition SUV that looked like a car caught on a surveillance camera. Plus, it matched the witness's description. Balba was arrested and taken to the police station, but since there was no evidence against him, he denied his involvement in the case and demanded a lawyer. Everyone again thought there was no hope of bringing Cornell Smith to justice. In the hope of finding at least something that could link Smith to Rebecca's death, investigators studied his court file related to illegal substance trafficking, and they could not believe their eyes when they found Smith's letters, in one of which he implicated himself. He sent these letters to the judge who was conducting the trial related to illegal substance trafficking. In the letters, Cornell Smith presented himself as superior to other people. Some of the letters were totally meaningless. However, in one of them, he wrote something that became the key evidence against him. It is worth noting that it is not completely clear why these letters did not attract attention earlier. After all, he addressed them to the judge. So, in one of the letters, Smith wrote, "Out of anger from an altercation that had happened downtown Boston, they set up an occurrence which was leading to the unfortunate passing of Rebecca Payne at the hands of I, Cornell Allen Smith Sr." This letter confirmed that he was in her apartment at the time of her death. The trial took place in 2015. The district attorney said Rebecca Payne was truly an innocent victim and had no connection to Smith or Balba. From the beginning of the trial to the sentencing, Smith changed 3 lawyers: Jeffrey Karp, a defense attorney for more than 20 years, and the first lawyer who represented Smith, withdrew from the case because Smith hit him on the head, right during a preliminary hearing in the Suffolk County Superior Court in Massachusetts. It came out of the blue. He stood up like lightning and whacked his handcuffed hand on his lawyer's head. It was a pretty nasty assault. It shows the kind of person that Cornell Smith is, said Nicholas Payne. Karp said he will not press charges against Smith, and it will be up to the judge to appoint a new attorney to represent him. Nicholas Payne was asked what it was like to see a man accused of taking his daughter's life. We look at him and say, that's evil and stupidity mixed together, and we wish we didn't have to see him, but we know we have to. It doesn't allow us to move forward. We just want the process to move forward, Payne said. In the end, nothing changes for us really. She's still gone. We'll never see her again. Cornell Smith took a deal and pleaded guilty to the involuntary deprivation of Rebecca Payne's life. A judge ordered Smith to serve no less than 18 years in prison, but no more than 20 years. When ordering the sentence, the judge told Smith to turn and face Rebecca's friends and family because they are the faces of pain suffered due to his actions. In Rebecca's memory, her town's local tennis courts have been named after her, as well as a garden and the National Athletic Trainers Association Scholarship Fund set up in her name. We don't want her to be forgotten, Nicholas Payne said. For most people, family is the foundation of life. Within the family, we learn to love, take care of others, and build relationships. But what if the family does not become a source of support and love? We don't get to choose our parents. We cannot change the past or choose another family. Unfortunately, not all kids are born into loving families. Some children face indifference or cruelty from their parents, which can lead to serious psychological trauma and problems in adulthood. Amber Gibson and her brother, Connor Gibson, didn't have a loving family. They grew up watching their father, Peter Gibson, physically abuse their mom, Anne Marie Adams. It continued throughout the period from August 2001 to August 2007. In 2008, their father was sentenced to 10 years in prison for several violent crimes. The father's behavior created a far from favorable environment for the children. They grew up in an atmosphere of terror and cruelty, especially Connor. Things began to change in 2008 when their father was sent to prison. It seemed that the family could finally find peace. But after their father's arrest, their mother, Anne Marie Adams, began abusing alcohol and stopped caring for the children. Amber was only 3 years old, and her brother was 5 when they were taken away from the family. Craig and Carol Niven became their foster parents. Described as the most giving, loving, supportive, and admirable young girl, Amber had shown hints of great promise. Although she had experienced immense suffering, she harbored an amazing outlook on life and loved art and singing, her loved ones said. Unfortunately, Connor never recovered from the abuse. The boy had behavioral problems from an early age. He was introverted and had difficulties adjusting to school. There were rumors about his outbursts of rage. He could lash out at strangers. As he grew older, he became more and more like his father. He most often directed his aggression at girls. Despite his pleasant appearance, he was a rather violent young man, so his classmates avoided him and considered him a dangerous person. As a result of all this, Connor had almost no friends. He actively used social media to share his thoughts. He wrote about his depression, anxiety, and attention deficit. As a teenager, he was left alone with his problems. Connor complained that those around him did not accept him and judged him. He didn't think he was bad. He was just trying to cope with the consequences of his father's tyranny. He was convinced that his father was to blame for all his problems. Despite his attempts at socialization, he could not even find a common language with his sister, who was only a couple of years younger. His foster parents tried not to leave them alone together, realizing that it could lead to a conflict or even a fight. After the pair moved in with the Nivens, there were concerns about Connor Gibson's behavior, with Mr. Niven describing the siblings as not a good mix. To minimize the time the siblings spent together, the foster parents decided it would be best for Connor and Amber to attend different schools. Connor went to a secondary school for kids with social, emotional, and behavioral needs, Keir Campus in Blantyre, Lanarkshire, while Amber attended Morehouse Academy in West Lothian's Bathgate. As they grew older, they faced new challenges, and Connor found them particularly difficult. For obvious reasons, he was unable to have romantic relationships. His temper scared people away, and none of the girls wanted to get involved with him. It made him extremely angry, and he began to systematically direct his aggression toward his sister, picking fights over any little thing. The tension in their relationship escalated to the point where Amber could no longer stand to live with him under the same roof. When Amber was just 14 years old, the foster care arrangement broke down, and she moved into the Hill House Children's Unit while her brother remained with the Nivens until his 18th birthday. In 2020, Connor left his foster parents' home, tired of their control. At the time, he was a resident at Hamilton's Blue Triangle Project, a hostel for homeless youngsters. Despite their separation, Amber and Connor continued to see each other occasionally. Their relationship got a little better as there were fewer reasons to fight. Unfortunately, life had a new challenge in store for Amber. While being looked after by social services, Amber was attacked by Jamie Stars at his home in Bothwell in June 2021. Stars had contact with Amber against her will. I think you understand what the word contact means in this case. At the time Stars attacked Amber, he was on bail after being arrested for a similar crime. Sentencing Stars, who appeared via video link from custody, the judge said, "You have been convicted of appalling crimes against 2 innocent teenage girls, and you have been assessed as being a very high risk of sexual violence on release. I am required to take into account your age and difficult upbringing. However, the crimes remain serious and grave, and I will impose an extended sentence." He said that he would have ordered 11 years to be served in custody, but reduced this to 10.5 years behind bars to take into account the time that Stars has spent on remand. Stars was also found guilty of a breach of bail conditions and of attempting to pervert the course of justice. 16-year-old Amber faced difficulties that seemed insurmountable to her. She lost interest in studying and socializing with friends and became more withdrawn and irritable. She felt lonely. It seemed to her that no one could understand her feelings and experiences. But unfortunately, the rough patch in her life did not end there. On November 26, 2021, Amber shared with a friend that she had plans to meet with her brother. She was excited, hoping he had changed during their separation, and the old conflicts would remain in the past. After Connor called the Hill House unit where Amber lived to talk to his sister, the manager tried to dissuade Amber from meeting her brother, but she didn't listen. They initially met at their foster parents' house and then went for a walk to discuss some issues. CCTV footage shows the two walking along the streets of Hamilton with one another, with Amber later sending a selfie of the two captioned, "My big bro." It was the last time anyone would hear from her alive. Connor would later return in a disheveled state and tell a project worker that he and his sister had argued. This worker later admitted that his appearance and strange behavior frightened her. Connor looked sullen, was breathing heavily, and his hands were stained to the wrists. The project worker became concerned and asked if everything was okay, but he ignored the questions. Instead, Connor asked for permission to use the phone. He said he had an argument with his sister, so he left, leaving her alone. But now he wanted to make sure she was okay and that she was back at the Hill House unit. Connor called the unit, but it turned out Amber wasn't there. Staff at the facility contacted Amber's foster parents, but they did not know where she was. The following morning, Amber was reported missing. Despite his sister's disappearance, Connor was unusually indifferent. He didn't call the foster parents or try to find out what happened to her. He just waited for the police to find her. During this period, the police have already begun search operations. To get leads, the investigators turned to the last person who communicated with Amber. They went to see Connor, and the latter confirmed they had gone for a walk the night before she disappeared. Connor said that, as always, there was an argument between them, so he walked away, leaving his sister crying in the park. Before reaching the hostel, he wandered around the neighborhood for a while. The Blue Triangle project worker told the investigators that when Connor returned to the hostel, His clothes and hands were dirty. Connor claimed he got lost that night and even fell into a ditch in the dark, which explained his dirty hands and clothes. Connor's words raised the detectives' suspicions. The last confirmed sighting of Amber was in Casdow Street, close to a bridge. Connor confidently pointed out the places on the map where he met his sister, where they walked in the park, and where he left her. However, when asked about the location of the ditch he fell into, Connor became confused. The investigators were trying to find out who was with Connor at that moment and who could confirm his words, but the young man was evasive. The police did not manage to get any helpful information from him. After that, the police checked all possible places where Amber could be: her friends, acquaintances, and relatives. They also checked the city's neighborhoods, including parks, forests, and abandoned buildings. But Amber was nowhere to be found. At that time, the police had very few leads and clues, but they continued to work, not giving up. The police interviewed everyone who could help in the search and utilized all available resources. Unfortunately, the first few days of the search yielded no results. Amber was still missing. The police continued to search for Amber, knowing that every minute counted, but there was no happy ending to this story. Amber Gibson was discovered by a police officer near a burn in a park in Hamilton, South Lanarkshire, on November 28, 2021. The 16-year-old was said to have been unclothed and covered by branches allegedly cut from a tree. As it became known later, Amber's body was discovered by 45-year-old Stephen Corrigan. But instead of reporting it to the police, he inappropriately touched her body and hid it. His DNA was discovered on 39 areas of her body, including her breasts, buttocks, and thighs. He was arrested and charged with attempting to obstruct the course of justice. Amber's body was found near the place where she was last seen. She was beaten before she died. Her clothes had been ripped off her and were lying in another place. The fact that Amber was naked made the motive for this crime obvious. The news of her death shocked all the locals. When Connor found out about the incident, he published a post on social media in memory of his sister, expressing deep regret and sadness over her death. People brought flowers to the park where her body was found. However, 2 days later, the equally shocking news for the locals was that Amber's brother, Connor Gibson, had been arrested as the prime suspect. As Amber's body lay on the cold forensic table, the attentive expert immediately noticed 8 distinctive bruises on her neck, clear signs of strangulation. There were numerous significant blunt force traumas to her head. Due to the particular brutality of the attack, it was suggested that the perpetrator had personal motives. The forensic expert concluded that Amber was first attacked and beaten, and then she lost consciousness from the blow to her head. The cause of her death was strangulation. Her torn clothes were found close to her body, as if ripped in a fit of rage during the attack. It was determined that Amber died 2 days before Stephen Corrigan contacted the police. However, the man had an alibi, so he was excluded from the list of suspects. At the same time, Amber's brother Connor aroused suspicion with his behavior. In real life, he was indifferent. While on social media, he tried to give the impression that he was suffering because of the loss of his sister. Under a photo of his sister, he wrote, "Amber, you will fly high for the rest of time. We will all miss you. Especially me. I love you, Ginger Midget." The investigators knew about Connor's quick temper and frequent quarrels with his sister. He was the last person to see her alive. So the police focused their attention on him and began gathering evidence to press charges. The detectives obtained CCTV footage, thanks to which they were able to reconstruct the last minutes of Amber's life. At 9:57 p.m., Amber and her brother crossed a bridge near a park. At 9:51 p.m., she posted a selfie with Connor in which she looked happy, indicating she was in a good mood at that time. They were apparently heading to the park where her body was later found. During the investigation, the police released several CCTV recordings. In the footage, Connor can be seen taking a bin full of objects out of the Blue Triangle Homeless Hostel, where he was living in Hamilton just before 1 a.m. on November 27, 2021, the day after Amber died. Connor Gibson can be seen leaving through the front door before walking through a car park with the items. He then gets rid of them out of shot before walking back to the accommodation with an empty bin. Other footage shows him on the night of his sister's disappearance when he was returning home shortly before midnight. A security camera caught him walking home down the town's Barrack Street. After crossing the road, Connor Gibson stops and leans against a fence using his outstretched arms with his head hanging between them. He waits in this position before collecting himself and carrying on down the pavement. The police found the jacket and shoes Connor was wearing the night his sister died. There were traces of dirt and blood on them. The analysis showed that the blood belonged to Amber, confirming his involvement in the crime. Connor didn't throw away his clothes and shoes because he had no spare ones. If he had the chance, he probably would have thrown everything away. But in the absence of other clothes, he tried to clean the dirt and blood off his jacket, but not thoroughly enough, which played into the hands of the investigators. His DNA was also found on her shorts, worn as underwear, which had been forcibly torn off. A phone seized from Gibson's residence following his arrest revealed messages sent from his Snapchat account to friends in the early hours of November 27th. The message said, "I'm really going to need you guys' help with something when yous come back. I'm being serious." A message was then sent to Amber asking, "Are you okay?" Before another was sent to the same previous friend saying, "Never mind, it's all good." The browser history obtained from the phone showed Connor searched how to get nosy police officers to stop monitoring your phone. It was on the night of Amber's death. The investigators found that Connor met with his sister that night, and they went for a walk, trying to patch things up. The footage shows that they were talking calmly, and everything looked normal, until they entered the park where the conflict began. The result of this conflict was Amber's strangulation and death. Perhaps the fact that Connor had abused his own sister and the fact that he was afraid she would tell someone about it drove him to take her life. Connor Gibson was charged with multiple counts. Despite the abundance of irrefutable evidence, he stubbornly insisted that he was not involved in what happened to his sister. However, the police had enough evidence to ensure the jury would find him guilty. Amber's blood was found on his clothes and shoes, and his DNA was found on her body and underwear. The CCTV footage proved he was near the crime scene, and he didn't have an alibi. After analyzing the data from his cell phone, the police saw some quite peculiar search queries. Connor had strange hobbies, and his relationship with his sister always seemed strained and cold. Connor probably thought his tricks might confuse the investigation. According to the foster parents, they were unable to contact Connor for several days until Amber's body was found. He showed no interest in the search despite the concern of everyone around him. As already mentioned, 45-year-old Stephen Corrigan was also involved in this case. It was claimed Corrigan found Amber's body, but rather than alert the police, he inappropriately touched her and then hid her remains under bushes and branches. The court heard Corrigan told the police he was at a complete loss to explain why his DNA was found on 39 areas of Amber's body, including her breasts, buttocks, and thighs. Corrigan, who the court heard was not known to Amber Gibson, also denied the charge and had lodged a special defense of alibi. His father, William Corrigan, 79, told the court his son was at his home in Blantyre, South Lanarkshire, that weekend after a fall on ice, left his arm in a sling, and denied lying to protect him. Judge Mulholland told Corrigan he had been convicted of horrific crimes. He said, "Coming across a young girl who had been strangled to death, she was naked. Instead of alerting the authorities, you decide to handle her body all over from head to toe, including areas that were intimate private parts, and your DNA told the story." He told Corrigan he faces a lengthy sentence. Corrigan was sentenced to 9 years behind bars for defiling and concealing Amber's body. But the twisted father of two has launched a bid for freedom after instructing his legal team to challenge his conviction and the length of his sentence. Corrigan will not be released pending his appeal and remains in custody. In a statement, the former foster family of both siblings said that Amber was the most giving, loving, supportive, and admirable person, and their life will never be the same again. The family said, "She kept us on our toes and had the most amazing outlook on life, considering the suffering she had experienced." The statement continued, "When they arrived at our home, Amber aged 3 and Connor aged 5, Connor stated, 'We are safe now.' They were until he took her safety away." The family said both siblings had been let down by the system, adding, "As a family, we all feel this could have been prevented. We now have one daughter buried in Lark Hall Cemetery and another child in prison." During the trial, Connor Gibson pleaded not guilty. The forensic pathologist who carried out the post-mortem examination on Amber's body told the court she was found covered in mud, and the cause of death was compression of the neck. Jurors also heard other forensic evidence that widespread bloodstaining on Gibson's jacket was compatible with Amber, and his DNA was also found on her shorts, worn as underwear, which had been forcibly torn off. Ian Curry, manager of Hill House Children's Home, told the court he spoke to Gibson at about 9 p.m. on November 26th after he called to speak with his sister, but noted him appearing sharp on the phone after making no greeting. The attorney conceded Gibson assaulted his sister, resulting in blunt force injuries, but said he did not cause her death, reminding them Amber's cause of death was compression of the neck. Concluding his remarks, he asked the jury to convict Gibson of assaulting Amber with every allegation deleted other than inflict blunt trauma to her head. The trial lasted 13 days before the jury found 20-year-old Connor Gibson guilty of what happened to his sister. Following the verdicts, Judge Mulholland told Gibson, "Your sister, the last person she saw was you strangling her. It was depraved, and you will pay a heavy price for that." On September 4, 2023, the court sentenced Connor Gibson to life in prison with a minimum term of 22 years. Judge Mulholland told Gibson, "She was looking forward to meeting up with you on the night she was murdered. She even posted a selfie of both of you on Snapchat. What you did was truly evil." The judge said Gibson attempted to cover his tracks but added, "All your lies were exposed by the CCTV and the forensic science, who spoke for your sister." Amber was only 16 years old. She was an ordinary teenager who loved life and dreamed of a good future. She made plans and believed she could make them come true. But her life was cut short too soon. Amber's story reminds us how important it is to appreciate every moment of life, because no one is immune to unforeseen circumstances and betrayal by loved ones.